that because I always forget to do that. Okay, there we go.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm just really glad you're here, each and every one of you. I mean, Flow has only been built by listening carefully to customers and just constant feedback from the world. And now we're at a point where we really need some detailed, frank feedback on the user interface, on the functionality, on anything that bugs you or anything that, particularly excites you and there's some area that we can do better. So I'm really glad to have everybody here. Let me just say that we started the company 5 years ago, and we actually started as a virtual reality company entirely. VR took a while to take off, and we found that our data visualization and data storytelling aspect of the company was much more valuable to the world. And that's where we have ended up focusing for the last 4 years. It's really, to me, it's really about the big picture. How can we make better data-driven decisions? How can we solve the world's problems? And the world has a few problems. We think that a good data conversation is something that's going to help us move that needle and help ourselves and help our audiences build better 3D mental models of complexity. And I'm not going to go on and on about the brain science behind a lot of what we do, but if you aren't careful, I will start describing down to every single dot why it matters in terms of the way that our brains make sense of the world and why we think this is going to be a powerful way to help solve the world's problems. So whether it's your own intuition and inspiration to communicate some idea to the world on social media, or it's your organization or your enterprise that's helping to close more business and help people understand what you do, or if it's the UN, which is actually one of our biggest customers, trying to actually move the needle on a global scale. That's what we're about. It's not just, we're not doing this just for fun. We're not doing it because it's cool, although it is fun and it is cool, but we really want to help make a difference. So any way that you guys can help us do that and we can help you accomplish some really interesting goals, that's what we're about. So I'm really glad you're all here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. All right. So with that said, I'm going to switch gears and sort of just dive a bit into some of what exactly is Flow, what are you getting access to, what's it look like, and into some of the examples of some of the things you can build with this new release and some of the things that we're pretty excited about and where some of the things you can take it. So with that said, I'm going to show you Flow, using Flow. This is just I'm going to fly through this, and usually I don't go this fast.
Spotlight your video, Michael.
Excuse me?
Spotlight your video, please.
Sure. So ultimately, what we do is not that complex. In some sense, it's pretty fundamental. We're solving for basically 3 problems in data communication. Are people engaged? Do they actually understand what they're being presented? And can they actually interact? Can they actually be part of the interaction? And if we can solve for those 3 things, that in the enterprise, we can drive better data-driven decisions. And in many enterprise sales use cases, it's more sales conversions. And in learning and development, it's actual retention and classroom participation and lots of other things. But how we do this is through data storytelling. And this is the combination of the story, the empathy you can drive in a presentation with the logic that comes from a data visualization. And that's why some of the stories I've put out and we've championed have gone so viral. It's that combination that is so magical, and we've seen it over and over. And we believe that we have the best platform to do this, and we are championing that way. And there's lots of other competitors that are doing really cool things in the space as well. And it's just an amazing thing to really see growing as an area. And it really did kind of come almost to a head with COVID, where suddenly everyone was sort of sick of the antidote and wants to get to the data, but just staring at data with no story, it's hard to feel part of. And that's really where data storytelling has started to really thrive. And so I point to this example, not to have a political conversation, but just to help illustrate how one data set can tell 3 different stories. So this first view of the election of 2020, the Republican side would often say that the whole country voted red, that you see the sea of red when you look out. but that the counter argument to that is that land doesn't vote, people vote. And so if we adjust the size of these bars based on the number of votes cast, a very different story emerges. But with this release and with all of our flows that we have out there, these are live links. And so I just clicked a button to start a live meeting. And what that means is that any of you guys can join and be in here in the metaverse with us. And so let me paste the link into the Zoom chat window so you can enter it by clicking on that link, and that will drop you into the environment. Alternatively, if you have your phone, you can point it to this as well. And for anyone that's seen this already, I apologize that I'm being redundant on this flow. There's a lot of cool ones we'll get to in our trainings that are, it's not about cool though. It's about the ability to communicate. And I often say that sometimes the best flows are actually some of the simplest. And so we are in a shared environment here. I don't know how many people are in total.
I think we're coming in on the first page, Michael.
It's on the first page. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's when people first load in, Jason, I think it's something to note. People are being loaded in on the first page as opposed to the step that the presenter currently is at. All right. So let me just give you a few instructions here. So if you click and drag your mouse, you will move orbit around the scene. If you use your right mouse click, you'll go up and down. And if you use your scroll wheel, you'll scroll in and out. So zooming in and zooming out of the scene. And so this is how we record all the videos, or those AR videos that you may have seen as well. There's no like post-processing. All it is just going on your phone, doing the same thing and hitting the AR button. And we'll go through that in our training of how you can record those yourself, but there's no magic involved. And what we're hinting at is not like revolutionary, right? It's like what we're giving you is a laser pointer so that you can point to things. But in many ways, we're starting to reenact things that you can do in person, but in things that you couldn't do in person, where like in this sense, I actually can see a bit of where everyone's looking. And it's interesting because it's sort of like all over the country, a little more on the West Coast, I'd say. But just these little hints of like being able to see where people are looking does help influence a conversation, as well as the ability to actually change things on the fly. And I could go on and on, but that's part of what we're helping to enable. And so there's a lot of other visualizations that we can get into, and just this last view of changing the color, so it's a little less binary, blue versus red. So just to cap off that story, but really the thing you're getting access to, or what you're providing, is access to the flow editor. So this is our no-code platform, which is how we create all of this content. It consists of a series of steps that you'll go through in order to basically create the scenes of a visualization. And then we have the story creator mode, which is meant more for a manager type audience and is really centered on giving someone the ability to add the story elements. And so you don't need to know the code, or you don't need to know the numbers, but you can sort of piece together the story. And that with all of these, you have the ability to create a live link that can exist on a website. It can just be embedded on a visualization on a web page, and I can show examples of that. Or you can do a multi-user meeting like we're doing right here, or we can record those AR videos, etc., or record videos and send those out. So all of these different modalities are unlocked by creating a flow in the flow editor. And that's what we're giving you access to. And your candid feedback and how you want to use it is really critical. And it's been amazing to see the response. And it's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have gone in from everyone on this team to really get to this point. And anyways, we're really excited to have you in. So let me pause there. Bill, Jason, Sierra, would you like to add anything? Otherwise, we'd just love to open it up just to get any reactions, any questions to what we just went through.
I'm just going to assume, I guess we are assuming that most people here have seen Michael's TikToks on that that method of distributing flows. And just to, a little credit to Michael, he just started experimenting on various platforms, and he's gotten, over 10 million views. He's really made an impact for us as a business, and we're hoping that you'll be able to use that as an impact in your business too, if that's part of your use case. It's generated a massive number of inbound calls, and well, I guess you guys are the first dozen of over 5,000 people on our wait lists. So glad to have you here. And if we can generate that much interest, hopefully you'll be able to generate some of that interest for the things you care about in the world too.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say this is a very participative session, and as a company culture, we tend to be very participative with our customers. So what we're hoping that you guys do in this beta program is bring some of your own data to play around with, and dive in and learn this flow editor, and don't be hesitant about asking questions. And we will do our best to reply and assist you in your movement along through this program.
Perfect. All right, so let me with this, let me just jump in to show just a few things just with the flow editor to build one live, so you can see sort of what you're getting into, and then Bill will go much more with methodically through this to give you a firmer foundation. But just to highlight some of the things that you can just get started with right away. Here is the flow editor. So when you're in the platform, you have the ability to upload your own data by uploading a CSV, or we have two data sets that are pretty good just to get going and to start playing around with. One is life expectancy data, and the other is 10,000 cities, just the 10,000 most populous cities and some data around them. And so if I start with that data set, just so you can see it's city data, the latitude and longitude of each of these cities, the population. So fairly basic, there's some other details in there as well. But what we can start to do is I'll add a step to create another scene in the animation or another step in the presentation. And then what I'll start to do is let's actually create a map from coordinates. So we're going to create a map by clicking the create map button, which creates another object here, which is a map. And now we can start to actually place these dots on the map. So say map 1 using the latitude column and using the longitude column, and now we see these dots on the map. And so this next step is sort of one of the cool things that we've started to add to it. And before I do it, Jason, are we still good on this? I don't know if there was a fix that recently went in. Oh, you're on mute, Jason.
The fix should be in.
Okay, cool. So this is the beauty of the beta, is that there always are things we are changing. So with this, I'm going to change, I'm sorry, what I need to do, apologies, is on the data tab, we have this new feature called Snapshots. And what it allows you to do is create hierarchies of information. And we can go into more detail, but just as a very basic example, I have all city data. And each of these cities has a continent and a region. So I can create a level that is the continent and a level that is the region. And then I can start to do some aggregation. So at the latitude, I'll take the average latitude, the average longitude, and for the population, I'm going to sum those up to aggregate it so that at different levels, we see different values. And so I'm going to create a snapshot for this. It's a snapshot of the data set formatted in this manner. And so now on this step, when I select this snapshot, I can actually do some additional things here, where underneath additional dimensions, I can add in a height axis that's looking at the population that we set. So as I start to increase this, you'll see these dots starting to come off the map. And what those are the different levels of aggregation that will make sense here in just a moment when I change the colors here to look at the different levels. And add one last thing, and I know I'm flying through it. This is not meant to be educational, but more just to give you a sense of some of the new things in here. And so this is building connections based on the hierarchy groups that were created. And I'll make this a little more transparent so you can see it a little more clearly. But what this is doing is that each one of these is a different level. And so if I add just a little bit of interaction here, say that when you select, we can find this, say the city, continent, and region. Oh, sorry, this is not going to work. So anyways, so we're building this capability to see different levels. So this is like all of South America. I guess what I could do is add a label here and a label that looks at, let's just do continent. And we're going to build this so that it is when the value of level is equal to 1. And now we have our big labels on each of those. And anyways, I'll stop nerding out on this, but this idea that we can build out these different hierarchies and get into lots of other details of setting these scenes are just sort of some of the new things we're starting to introduce that are really enhanced in 3 dimensions and offer a lot of capabilities in terms of level of detail. So I've definitely burned more time than I expected for this portion. But just to say, there's a lot of new things in here, but the process of going from visualizing to then creating a story and then presenting that story to the world, that's our bread and butter. And to Jason's point, if we can make even a slight dent in climate change, and we are trying to do that with the UN and others, that it makes it all worth it. And we think the way we get there is through data storytelling and having better conversations around data. So with that, let me pass it off to Bill, which I stole too much time from already, and he will give you a bit more detail and give you more of a firm foundation. And then for the last 10 or 15 minutes, then we will switch into our small little groups, get to know each other, and Sierra can comment further on that. So Bill, take it away.
Yeah, okay, so I'm Bill Morton. I head up services here at Flow. So anything having to do with implementation, training, education, support, those are all in my areas. I also handle contracts here at Flow and partnerships. So got plenty to keep me busy, as we all do. So I'm very glad to meet you. I'm very familiar with almost all of your email addresses since I've had various communications with you via email over the last few days. So what I'm going to do here is just take you through some of the essentials of Flow, and what I'm going to leave you with is a copy of your own Flow that you can use to kind of reverse engineer what I've done in the Flow I'm going to give you a copy of. Okay. So let me start. I think you can all see my screen. Up at the top here, we've got 3 really easy buttons. The documentation button takes you into our help center. You can search for, say if you wanted to search for some articles on maps and things like that, you can search in our help center. That's the documentation Flow, or the documentation button. The About Flow button, if you want to find out more about our company, you can go there. Doesn't have too much to do with the product, but the company. And if in the course of your work here, you find what you think is a bug, or there's an issue you just can't figure out where to go next, and you want to create a case in for us picking up at the help center, you feel free to do that. So that is this Get Support button. Over here on the top left-hand side, and by the way, I'm just like Michael did, I'm really going to rush through this and hopefully in about 20 minutes. If you haven't already done it, what I would recommend you do is go out, spend a little time on the featured flows. This is at the same link that you use for your login. Featured flows, we've got about 25 flows out here. They're all different. They're all interesting. They're all built with the Flow editor. And you can just get tons of ideas about visualizations by looking at these featured flows. And one of them is that Flow About Flow that Michael just took us through. Okay, I'm going to go back here to my flows, and I have hundreds of flows in my directory of flows, but I only have one that begins with the word beta. Okay, so I'm going to take you through that one in a second. The other thing I wanted to do though right now, and by the way, are you all logged in? If you're not logged in, if you could log in, that would really be great. And if there are any of you who have not registered yet, we'll just have to catch up with you. If you send me an email to bill@flow.gl, I'll catch you up in some way with this. But what I want you to do is click on the Shared with Me button, okay? And what you should see in there is a flow with the same beta name that I'm looking at in my flows. Beta January 27, part 1, V1.0. As of 2 hours ago or so, I had shared this with 18 people in the beta program. So hopefully that includes all of you guys. What I would like you to do is to access that flow and click on the 3 dots next to the thumbnail and click on this Save a Copy and Edit button. And what that's going to do, it's going to bring a copy of this flow into your private directory. And what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to operate on that flow just like I'm going to be showing you today. So let's see, as you are successful in making that copy, could you just say something just so I know we're making some progress there?
Good on this end.
Saved on mine too.
I was
Okay.
able to do it.
Great.
Yep,
Perfect.
it's all good.
Excellent. Okay, that's good news. Okay, so now when you click on My Flows, you're going to see the same thing I see here. Unless you've already created a flow on your own, you might have some others, but my guess is the great bulk of you will just have this one flow. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's see, without further ado, since Michael has already created a flow and taken you through some of the fundamental steps in building a flow, I'm not going to repeat that, but rather what I'm going to concentrate on here in my remaining 12 or 14 minutes is to take you through this flow and tell you what I've done. And the thought being you'd be able to replicate that. Maybe you want to listen to the recording of this or whatever, but my goal is to have you be somewhat familiar with what I've done in building this flow. Okay, a flow consists of 1 or more steps. This particular flow has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. A flow also consists, or each step, I should say, consists of various data objects. And everywhere you see a colored cell in this area here, which we call the data objects timeline, that represents a data object that's on a particular step. So on this particular step, I just have one data object. It's called a swarm, and a swarm corresponds to a CSV file of input data. Each dot in here represents a data point, or excuse me, a data record in the CSV file. And that's what we call swarms. And we have a convention that when you click on a dot, you can query what's behind that dot in the data file. So this is a life expectancy CSV file that goes back about 150 years for about 50 different countries. And this dot happens to correspond to the Netherlands. Okay, 1883, 42.36 is the life expectancy. It's a yellow dot. If I click on another yellow dot here, I get Greece. The yellow dots are the colorization I put in here for Europe. If I click on this red dot here, I'm going to see Vietnam, 1928. Another red dot is going to be Afghanistan. So Asia are the red dots. So what I did when I first, well, let me show you the CSV file. It's a very simple CSV file. You can look at it. If you click on the swarm, this is swarm number 1 on step 1. If you click on the edit, you can see the structure of this CSV file. So it's got a year, it's got the country, it's got the life expectancy, it's got the continent, and a few other odds and ends also. But those 4 columns are the ones I'm going to be primarily interested in this particular flow. Now, what I did, the very first thing I did when I specified what my CSV file was going to be, I put a query interaction on it. And the particular type of interaction I used here is under this interactions area here on select pop-up. And what I did is I was presented this form, this dialogue. And what I did is I just said, I want to look at the year, the country, the continent, and the life expectancy. Just did 4 clicks, saved OK. I also specified I want the position of my pop-up to be in the upper left. Okay. So I did that. And now, so when I click on a dot in the upper left, I get the country, the year, the life expectancy, and the continent. Okay. The other thing I did, I was kind of anticipating here that I was going to use some colorization in my flow. And so what I did is right off the bat, I decided I was going to put in some colors here. I was going to use a color scheme based on the column continent. And I was going to use a default color scheme that I'm familiar with. I like the colors of the dots. They're bright, they're different. So, you know, from my past knowledge, I knew this was a good color scheme to use. So this is what I did on this very first step, even though it just looks like a mishmash of, it's a cube of dots. The reason I did that on the first step is because when I added a new step by clicking this button and going to generate step number 2, I chose to duplicate the step that was on the first step. And in doing that, my step 2 inherited everything that I had already done on the first step. The colorization, the pop-up, all of that was inherited into my step 2. So when you create a new step, when you add a step, usually if you're bringing any information forward into that step, you want to duplicate the step and then make modifications. So the modification that I wanted to make on this particular step, I went into my chart type, okay? And the chart type was initially a random chart. I'll go back here, just show this. It was originally a random chart of width 1 meter by height 1 meter by depth 1 meter in 3D space. That's by default what a CSV file is when you first read it in. It's a random set of dots. So when I came over to my second step, the next thing I did exactly what Michael did when he was demonstrating to you before. I did a scatter plot. I chose the year. It's a timeline. I chose year as my column of interest for that. The height axis was life expectancy, and the country was, or the depth axis I made into the country. So, you know, with just doing those few things, I was able to see the primitive display of this particular scatter plot. The next thing I did is we have a concept called connections. And the idea of connections is to connect the dots together to make a smooth curve rather than a series of isolated dots. So what I did is I came in this swarm, I clicked new connections, and that put me into this dialog here, where I said, hey, connect the dots when the column values match on column equal country. So when I did that, immediately these line charts filled in, okay? The other thing I wanted to do, I wanted to get some labels up here so it'd be easy to see which of these curves corresponds to which country. So back here on my swarm definition, I clicked new labels, and then I went through a very short process to generate labels that are right here. I won't go through all the steps there, but it was about 10 clicks to get these labels so that they were a little bit separated from the lines so I could read them well, and so that they were centered on the lines and things like that. So this labels definition here, and by the way, I can see the definition of the labels by clicking over here in the labels cell for step 2. Okay, that's the paradigm we always use. If you want to find the definition of a data object on a step, you click on the cell corresponding to that data object and the step. So you can, in this flow, you can explore what I've done here in labels. Basically what I'm doing is I'm showing a label at the last item within each country curve. So that's exactly where these labels appear. I also did some other minor configuration things just to make them look better. Okay. Then what I did after that is I went over here and I set the camera. I got this step in exactly the right way I wanted it to look for when I want to make my presentation. And then I click set camera, and that took a photo basically of this particular chart. So the next time I return to that chart, and I'll just illustrate here, that's exactly what I'm going to get, exactly the same configuration I had when I click set camera. And that configuration includes not only the formation of the chart, but the angle at which you're looking at it, the amount of zoom in and out you're doing. You know, you just get it so it's just perfect, and then click set camera and you've got that. Okay. Okay, the next thing I did is, this is a busy chart. You know, it's not, you don't see too many presentations that have 50 line charts on them. So in my next step, I just wanted to get a more manageable set of countries. So so what I did is I added down here in the filter area, down in filters here, I said I want to have a new filter, and I want to show only the rows where the continent field contains EUR. Okay, so that's how I selected just the European countries. So this is a more manageable chart than one with 50 lines on it. If you look at this chart here, you can see some things are going on around 1918. That's the Spanish flu pandemic that decreased the life expectancy all around the world. There are some things going here in the early 1940s. That's World War II, which really devastated life expectancy in Europe. And then if I were more a student of Ukraine and Russia and some other countries, some of these other anomalies here I would probably be familiar with what they are. Okay, so anyway, that is a scatter plot. The next thing I just want to show to you real quick is some information having to do with maps, or how we deal with maps. We have several maps that are in our portfolio of maps. The particular map that I chose is a map of the world with a spherical representation. We have many other different maps. You know, I won't go into all of them right now, but we've got about 15 or 20 different maps. We also have the capability, we can give you a process where you can bring up your own custom map. So just like in that first step, I also defined a new swarm. And on this particular swarm, I went out and I got a map of 10,000 cities around the world. So on this step, I'm just seeing the swarm of dots representing the cities, and I'm seeing the map in the background. My final step I'm going to take you through here is, it probably took me 15 minutes or so, and I was able to change that into this. So what I've done here on the map, what I've done is I've imported a new CSV file that has populations of each of the countries of the world. And I put in what's called a choropleth, which is a way of colorizing each country. And the way I chose to colorize these countries, I arranged the colors from yellow to red, and the countries with the largest populations, I colored red. So what you can see here, in this swath of longitude here, 6 of the 10 largest countries in the world are in this swath of longitude. They're colored red: Russia, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, which is one of the top 10 population countries in the world, and Indonesia. So, you know, the action for population is in Asia, this swath of longitude. The other countries that came out dark red were Nigeria, Brazil, the United States, and Mexico. Those are the 10 largest countries in the world by population. And the second level I did was the second most populous. I think I colored those orange. So I won't go through picking out what all the countries are, but the choropleth, I chose to color countries in a way that, for whatever reason, I wanted to convey in my presentation. Very easy to do. All I did is I said, hey, I'm going to use map 1. The latitude column is latitude, the longitude column is longitude, and so let me see, let me get back to the map here, sorry. The name of the country is how I'm identifying a region in this map of the world. I'm arranging it from yellow to red according to a column which I call population section. And in my CSV file, the top 10 countries population rise had a 5, the next had a 4, and 3, 2, and 1. So that's how I got this color variation in here. So that is the map, the swarm. Okay. You know, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to provide you some texture and some clickability for the largest cities, or these 10,000 cities. So what I did is this is a set of swarm attributes. What I did is I said for this swarm, my chart type is called map from coordinates. You know, before it was scatter plot for the life expectancy. For this particular chart, it's map from coordinates. That's what I chose. Using map 1 with latitude and longitude, that was able to project the dots up to where you see them in space right now. I had to do one other thing to get them up to that height, and that is, I said, hey, I want to scale the side, I wanted to put some dimensionality into this display. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to generate a height offset off of the globe. I wanted the height offset to range from 0 to 0.4 meters. And I wanted the 0 height offset to correspond to the smallest city, which is 40,000. And Flow automatically computed this, by the way. I did not have to enter 40,000. And the maximum size city, which is the Tokyo metro area, 37 million people. That's what this one is. That's the one that's most offset. So the way I controlled the offset was just by clicking this arrow up and down, and you know, you can see how my dots respond when I provide the offset. The other thing I needed to do at that point, I had these dots kind of hanging in space. The other thing I needed to do is I needed to show where they were on the globe. So I came in, I did another connection, which are these lines here that connect the dots to the globe. This particular type of connection was connect the dots to the axis or the map. Okay, so that was very simple. It's basically one click that had me able to identify exactly where in the world these dots corresponded to. The final thing I did here, just to get them on a step, so you'd have something you could refer to, is I put in an image. The particular image is this tiger image right here. I had stored that on my hard drive. To put the image in, all I had to do was tell the name of the file, which I did, and then I sized it. So I could make this tiger image larger or smaller. I can control the size just through these simple clicks. So that was the image I did. I also decided I wanted to put a button on this step. Buttons are also very easy to configure. What I did here is a button controls an automated action in Flow, or maybe not automated. It controls an action. I decided to just put a very simple action on this button. That is, go to the previous step. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click the button, and you can see I just reverted back to step number 4. So kind of a meaningless step in most cases, I guess, but it illustrates the point of what you can do with buttons. Notice also on the button here, there is a label on the button that says button to go to previous step. That's text I had entered here. And there's also an icon. I use the same tiger icon. So down here, there's an icon item, and I just specified the same file. I could have put some other file on here, but I knew where the tiger file was, and I just decided to use it again. The final things I put on the step are 3 items of text. This one here, I just created, I said, create me a new text. I put in the text. This is text for step 5. I type that in and it appears here. Then I use these positioning arrows to position the text where I wanted to position it. So you can go up, down, and in and out and whatever in positioning your text. Okay. The other two text items I put on were this one here, an image. Not a very meaningful text object, but it certainly describes what this is. And then the final text object I created in exactly the same way, and I just put a button on here. So that is what I did to create this 5-step flow. And here's my hope. My hope is you guys all have a copy of this flow right now. So as you're going in learning the flow editor, please feel free to do whatever reverse engineering you want to do by looking at how I've defined each of these objects, each of these data objects on each step. And the way you can do it, you just click on the object, and over on the right-hand part of the screen, you'll find the definition. Okay. So let's see. That's that. I just want to show you a couple other things. This 3-dot menu gives you access to various things. If you want to see all the data sources, here's the global life expectancy data, the 10,000 cities, the country world population data file that I use for making that choropleth. This is an important item under this settings. Some of these I'm not going to spend any time on right now. Under the settings, if you have developed a flow and you want to lock it, so nobody's going to change it, you can't even change it until you unlock it. We've got a lock setting for that. That's the toggle. You can toggle it on and off. And there are several other settings, which I won't take time right now, but if we have a follow-on discussion, I'd be happy to take you through all these settings. These 3 buttons up here, the visualize data, this is the mainstream of the flow editor. If you want to create a data story, and this is used for tuning the flow in various ways, which I don't have time to go into right now, but you know, the create story button does that. And if you want to go into presentation mode, you just click the present button, and all this stuff here vanishes, and you're able to present the flow. So there's tons and tons of functionality in this product, certainly more than it takes to cover in 20 minutes. So I'll look forward to working with each of you to see how far we can get you along that path during these upcoming weeks. Any questions? Okay, that's a real mouthful. I'm glad we recorded this. You might have to go back and take a look at some of that. So I'm going to stop sharing, unless anybody has any questions. I'm going to stop sharing right now. Perfect.
No, thank you, Bill. You are an encyclopedia, and if it is inspiration to anyone here that you can learn the system in and out, Bill is testament to learning it from scratch, in and out, and fairly quickly. And so anyways, just one thing to quickly point out to everyone is, you know, maybe the most critical thing to know is this get support button. So if you are in flow, and you see a bug, something's not working as you expect it, or you can just have a question, if you click this little help button and click on get support, it will drop you directly into our Zendesk to submit a ticket. These are super critical for us to get back from you and just get that communication going, because really it's really important for us to find the edge cases, the bugs, things that are missing, etc. So please do not be shy to use that. And in addition, we have the documentation that Bill pointed out as well. So just reiterating that in case there's, so I'll be redundant a bit here and a broken record. But with that, let me pass it over to Sierra. So Sierra has been in communication with you guys on a few different things, to coordinate a lot of these smaller groups. And so I'll let her describe that a bit, and anything else.
Thank you, Michael. Just to introduce myself very briefly, I've been sending you lots of emails. Thank you for tolerating that. I really appreciate it. One of those emails I did include a survey. I'm going to just share screen really quick, show you what that looks like. Let me know if you haven't seen it. I can send it to you again or send it to you individually. It'd be really helpful if you could fill this out. There'll be one before we start and then one after our training's complete. It's really helpful for us to get an idea of like where you're coming from. And on that note, as we go into our breakout rooms with your assigned flow point of contact, I would say maybe a guideline, what I did with the morning session was just go around, everyone can kind of introduce yourself and explain like what your use case is, what you plan on using flow for, what kind of data you plan on bringing in, as well as your learning style. So if you prefer to do, group collaborative trainings kind of like this one, it's really helpful for your point of contact to know that. Or if you want to just take things on your own and then come back and bring back to us a bunch of questions, that's super helpful too. So whatever, learning style you prefer best would be great for us to know. But on that note, I'll just break us out into breakout rooms.
Yeah, and actually before you do that, Sierra, I think it's too late. Oh wait, did it happen?
I think it happened, sorry.
Okay, that's okay. No, all good.
We're back.
Oh, we come back?
Oh shoot, I'm sorry.
Oh no.
Okay. I didn't have it, it wasn't important, so we're just gonna go to our rooms. Sorry about that. I think I messed it up.
Fine, everyone, so sorry if there's a momentary delay.
But anyways, if we don't come back as a group, just want to say bye to everyone. And yeah, we're all here and available if you want to meet with any of us individually or to chat more. But it really means a lot that you guys are spending some time in our beta. We want you to be successful. We've seen some amazing things come out of these groups and some amazing creativity. And so, yeah, we're really excited to see what happens. So thanks. And which group am I supposed to go to, Sierra?
Room 1.
Room 1? Okay.
Yes. And Jay, I'm getting you in, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
You are with Bill. All right. We might be the only ones still here.
Yeah, everybody did leave. Out of everybody was gone. Wow. Okay.
They said it's 7:30. We got to get out.
Yeah, they said it's not there. My goodness. Thank you so much, Sierra, for having us. I should have one question though. Will there be any way for us to interact with the other people who are in the cohort as well?
Yeah, so if that's something of interest, I could definitely, you can always reply all to our cohort email, but I can also set up maybe like sometime next week, some kind of like check-in where maybe we'll do like a similar time and we can all get back together again.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Coming back as a group. I think, everyone is back. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for spending an hour with us on either extremely late or somewhat late or early, depending on where you are in the world. This was really nice to get to know one another. Any closing thoughts or any things to bring back to the group? Otherwise, Jason, if you want to give us the final word.
Let's see if anybody has a comment first. So my last comment is that just how grateful we are for each one of you. And when I say that we want to listen and learn from you, I'm really serious about it. You've heard it these like times in this. Mike and I started the company and we were in VR and we starved to death for years. It was horrible. And what we just kept, we got this mental image of standing in the field all by ourselves, and gradually more and people came and saw what we were doing, and we figured out what we were doing and building. And we've got a bunch of people dancing in this field with us, and we call it the Flow Tribe. So you guys are part of the tribe, whether you like it or not. Thanks for your support, your time today, and let's all go build something really, really impressive.
Yay. I see a lot of virtual claps. All right. You guys know how to reach us. And if you don't, harass me on TikTok or something. We'll make sure you get your attention. And yeah, thanks everybody. Talk soon.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Or good morning in some cases.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Elena.
Bye. Thank you.